and welcome to episode 7 of the History Boys Abroad podcast. I'm here, Graham, as always, with my co-host Tony.
How you doing, mate?
Not bad. It's I would say it's about 33 degrees here, and I think my eyeballs are sweating. So, I mean, that's pretty disgusting. It's a disgusting way to start the podcast.
It is a disgusting way. Let's get to it.
Yeah. So, we're going to do this podcast in two halves tonight, because, Tony, you're going to the game.
Yeah, that's right.
Just because we didn't have so much time out, we won't have so much time after the game. So we're doing the kind of history part before the game, and then we're going to do the kind of reaction to the game after the game, obviously. And this week's episode is on the Coronation Cup of 1953. So why was there such a thing as a Coronation Cup, Tony?
The Coronation Cup was just a one-off tournament that someone in England thought was a good idea to have to mark the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, or before that she would have been Lizard Princess or whatever she was called, but it was to celebrate the crowning of the Queen, and the idea was to pick the four best sides from England, and the four best sides, or the four biggest rather, because as we'll find out, Celtic were not really anywhere near the best side in Scotland, and probably not even top four, but the idea was to pit the biggest teams in England against the biggest teams in Scotland, so like a 8-team knockout playoff type thing where each team would play. They would be drawn and they would play a team from an opposing country to try and win this special magical cup that we're going to talk about. But yeah, it's essentially just to celebrate the crowning of a bag from England.
It's bizarre to think now as a Celtic fan, this kind of concept of Celtic and Rangers playing in a tournament to commemorate the crowning of a monarch, you know what I mean? I think obviously like with the troubles in Ireland in the 70s and 80s, it's just intensified that kind of split so much more.
Yeah, there's a sweet irony about Celtic being part of this crowning of the monarchy, when our history is Irish, Scottish, traditional, Republican, anti-monarchy, and here we are, like not actually taking part in this competition, but dishing out doons on the way. And that, yeah.
I was just going to say, and there's a great bit from the Herald news report from the semi-final where he describes the kind of Irish flags. There's a few Irish flags in the Celtic end, and it describes it as inopportune. Yeah.
And to give it a little bit of context before we start with the first game, approximately a year or two before this game, and just to give you that the date of when we're talking about here, just to give you more specific information, we're talking about the end of 1952 and 1953. The season finished approximately in April, the end of April, and these games began on the 11th of May. The first game we played against was Arsenal. But prior to this happening is when there was a bit of an uproar because Celtic were flying the Republican flag, the Ireland flag. And up to this point, obviously there was a lot of tension between our supporters and those other cunts. And we're not going to go into that because there's no point, but it got to the stage where we were actually boxing in the stands, like physically boxing with them, and the SFA made this sort of really vague but clearly aimed at Celtic statement about certain flags should not be allowed to fly. They never actually named Celtic, they just spoke about the old firm, about certain flags not being allowed above certain grounds. Obviously that was to do with Celtic. Now, I don't want to go into that too much because again, there's a lot to talk about that, and that in itself would be a whole podcast about the whole troubles we've had with flying that flag.
I do like the kind of image of 1950s men boxing in the crowd. It's like kind of ragtime piano music in the background.
I know, Ben. Fighting Irish, we guys putting their fists up now.
1.5 speed as well.
Exactly. So that's to give you an idea of like what was happening before that. The season before the one we're talking about now, again, I just want to reiterate, we're talking about the kind of close season of the 52-53 season. The season had ended. The season before that. Now, if you don't know, then now you do know. But Jimmy McGrory, to quote Biggie, Jimmy McGrory was the manager of Celtic during this period, and he took over in 1945 and lasted until 65. when a certain Jockstein was waiting. The season before the one we're talking about, and I'm talking about the 51-52 season, Hibs won the Scottish division. I think it was called the First Division.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. I think it was the First Division. Celtic finished 9th.
9th, and we were pumped out of the Scottish Cup in the first round by Third Lanark.
Third Lanark, who don't even exist anymore, much like another team that probably get mentioned in this podcast. But the system, like looking back at all the league system, it was not the kind. It was kind of different. It was extremely different to what it is now. The system back then, I think, it was split into regions for parts of the league, kind of like what we're doing with this stupid cup that's on just now. Mm-hmm. It was split into regions, but I don't know too much about that. I don't really care about it. But all I know is that Hibs won. Motherwell won the Scottish Cup. Dundee won the League Cup. It was a 16-team league, and Celtic came 9th with 28 points. I think we only play 30 games in that league. In these days back then, you only played 30 games in a season, and that was 28 points over 30 games. So that's terrible. And in that division at that time, we had Morton and Stirling Albion in place, teams like that. But just to finish what I was saying there about this season, a guy called Laurie Riley scored 27 goals for Hibs to become the top scorer, and as I say, Hibs were the champions.
Would he be part of the Enid Blyton famous five for Hibs?
I'm not sure. I know that he played in the final that we're going to talk about.
He probably is part of it.
He scored 27 goals. He was joint top scorer in the next season. Again, Jimmy McGrory's still the manager, 52-53 season. The Celtic squad that we had in the season that we're about to talk about was... I'm going to go through the squad now. John Bonner, who I'm going to talk about a bit shortly. He was the goalkeeper. Mike Hockney, Alex Rollo, John McPhail, Bobby Evans, Charlie Tully, Bobby Collins, James Walsh, Jock Steeden, Neil Mochan, Bertie Peacock, Willie Fernie, Sean Fallon and Alec Bowden. Now, I just want to point out that the squad at the time of the Coronation Cup, that was the squad that I mentioned there, because Neil Mochan never signed until the end of the season.
Aye.
Now, Neil Mochan, Graham, do you know anything about Neil Mochan?
I had one of the great things about doing this podcast is it's just filling in a lot of gaps from my knowledge as well, and I'd never heard of him before we started the research. But yeah, we signed him from Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough,
yeah, and I think he played kind of a forward role, left winger, left back, outside left. Now, we were talking earlier on about some of these positions; they just don't exist anymore, like wing half and half back and hatchback and things like that. But he played as a forward, and his first game for Celtic was after the season had finished. We played the Glasgow Charity Cup at Hampden against Queen's Park. And Queen's Park were amateurs at this time, and Mochan made his debut. And I think this was one of the best signings McGrory made through these years. And he came in and on his debut scored twice on the 9th of May. So the 9th of May we played Queen's Park in the Glasgow Charity Cup final. Mm-hmm. It's 2 days before we start another cup. It wouldn't happen now.
No,
that wouldn't happen now. There's 2 days in between. So he scored twice in his debut. Celtic won 3-1. The other goal was scored by Willie Fernie. And Queen's Park actually got to the final. I'm not sure if Celtic, but I noted that Queen's Park got to the final of the Charity Cup by winning a coin toss over the Huns. It was quite funny, really. But yeah, apparently the game wasn't very good, and the two teams couldn't be arsed with it.
One thing I noticed just looking back was this kind of the want for cross-country football.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of research, and they started doing it in 1897 actually with this thing called the Challenge Cup, and it was basically between Austria and Hungary, so it was quite a kind of limited competition. And then in the early 1900s there was a Thomas Lipton Trophy, which had Italian teams, German teams, Swiss teams and English teams. I think the Italian teams were getting mauled by everyone else because the league was quite young over there. In 1930 the Coupe des Nations, it featured 10 different countries' teams. Didn't have anyone from the United Kingdom in it, but it was won by Utrecht. And quite funny, it had a Segunda Division B team, Real Union. Do you know them?
Nope.
I think they might be like a Basque team or something like that. And the German representatives were Greuther Fürth.
Greuther Vater.
Aye. So the grey and white hoops of Germany were the German representatives.
Yeah, brilliant strips. They have brilliant strips.
Yeah. And that went into 1948, where we had the precursor for the. I'm going to make some mistakes here. The Copa Libertadores.
Libertadores.
Yeah, and that was called the Campeonato Sudamericano de Campeones. And so in 1948 they start this tournament, which was essentially the European Cup, but in South America. And the European teams were kind of looking at each other, thinking, "Why are we not doing this?" 1953 comes along, the kind of this desire to have this kind of tournament, and then obviously 2 years later the European Cup starts.
Yeah.
So we're in a situation where teams are really kind of desire. I mean, human beings are provincial creatures. We want to kind of test the us v them kind of formula, you know. And I think teams were just wanting to kind of face ones from other countries.
Yeah, fair. That's decent information. So yeah, the Coronation Cup. Sorry to bring it back so abruptly. I just want to talk about the season again. 52-53, just to give you an idea of where Celtic finished in that season prior to beginning the Coronation Cup, the challenge for it. Celtic finished 8th, which is a slight improvement on finishing 9th the previous season. We also finished with 29 points, so slight change around, but we finished with 1 point more and we finished one place better. The Huns won, then Hibs came second, then East Fife, Hearts, Clyde, St Mirren, Dundee, Celtic.
I saw that thing with the Hibs and the Huns. Did you find out why the Huns won it?
Nah, was it to do with a coin toss?
No, Rangers won it because it went on goal average at that time instead of goal difference.
How the fuck does that work?
I think it must be like how many goals are scored, or maybe like I don't know, some kind of formula or something. But if it'd been done in goal difference, apparently Hibs would have won it.
Bizarre.
Yeah. So, again, Rangers exploiting rules to win things.
I know. I wonder how they worked that out back then on the pitch with an abacus, trying to work things out. Again, I just want to repeat that the Laurie Riley, who was arguably the best striker in Scotland at this time, finished the season with 30 goals, and he was joint top goal scorer with Charles Fleming of East Fife, who also had 30 goals. This is to highlight how shite Celtic were this year, this specific year. The highest goal scorer that Celtic had only scored 8 goals, and that was Betty Peacock. We scored 51 goals over that season, according to a website that I found. It was quite difficult finding this information, but apparently Betty Peacock scored 8, and then after him was Willie Fernie, Charlie Tully, Jimmy Walsh with 7, and after that it's one for John McGee, a couple for Sean Fallon, blah blah blah, and then a few own goals. But it's really as we spoke about previous to this, Celtic hadn't won the league since 1938. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Yeah.
And we never won the league again until when?
1954.
So we're talking 16 years.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So you can see that there's a sort of comparison between the 90s and how shite it was and how arid it was then, but we went 16 years without winning a league trophy. It has to be said, there was a little war that was happening across Europe and Asia.
And there was so much more competition back, like Celtic finishing that low down. Hibs were amazing. Hibs were pretty much thought of as like the best team in Britain at that point, you know what I mean? And so there was much more competition than probably Scotland in the 90s, you know, so I don't think it is as bad as the 90s in Scotland. But one of the things I noticed looking back was we just had so much kind of inconsistency in player selection. I think the 8 players played centre forward for Celtic that season. And 8 players played left half. So like there was a kind of it was almost like just rotating the players round to try and see where players fit.
I mean, there was probably some interference from the board back then. I know in the 60s and 70s there was a lot of trouble with board members, specifically telling managers, this is the team that you're playing. I'm choosing the team. You know, like Romanov used to do with Hearts. Walk in and just like hand a team sheet over. And
national teams used to be selected by committee, you know what I mean? So it would have probably been that kind of mentality back then as well. But
probably not as abnormal then as it is now.
Yeah. I think one thing that did seem to come together was as you were saying, right towards the end of the season, we've got McPhail, Jockstein and Evans at the back, and when those guys clicked together towards the end of the season, that seemed to be the kind of turning point for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's for the tournament itself, Hibs were the favourites from Scotland to win or to do well. Mm-hmm. Arsenal were champions of England, and we faced Arsenal in the first game. And now let's go through the teams that were actually selected to be part of the Coronation Cup in 1953. So we had Celtic, obviously we had Arsenal, Manchester United, Rangers, Newcastle, Aberdeen, Hibs and Spurs. And the Huns got papped out first. Not even a look in. They get beat 2-1.
It'd be funny that would still be like a decent tournament nowadays. It's funny how consistent most of the teams in that, apart from like obviously Rangers like getting liquidated and Newcastle have capitulated a little bit. But apart from that, then you've obviously the kind of strong teams can continued on for 60 odd years there, you know.
Yeah. So Arsenal were the champions, but I want to just point out that in the second half of the season, in the 53 half of the 52-53 season, Celtic won 3 league games. Only 3 league games in about 15 games. Yeah. 3 out of 15. And for Celtic, going into this tournament, it was almost like a distraction, I think, because the build-up to it, we were fucking shite, to be honest. We beat Queen's Park, but they were amateurs in the Glasgow Charity Cup, and if this is Glasgow, I assume that there's only a select few teams that can play in that. And 2 of them don't exist anymore.
Well, Juniors.
So, were they playing in it?
No, I'm only
in the last 2 months in the build up to this tournament, I think we played 9 games. We won 2, drew 1, and lost the rest. We get beat 4-0 off Dundee. One of them being an absolute stalker result for Dundee. They beat us 4-0. And I want to reiterate, the first game we were playing was Arsenal, who were the champions of England.
Aye. I think you always get that kind of hackneyed expression that when you're down in your luck, playing in the cup games can give you this kind of distraction where the pressure's off and all that bullshit. You know, it's always rolled out. It seems to be that kind of thing actually happened here.
I noticed that myself. Like reading through the newspaper clippings and everything that I've came across. Like Celtic were, and to talk about the game against Arsenal, we played them on Monday the 11th of May at Hampden. Apparently Celtic blew them away. It was an unbelievable performance from Celtic. We beat them only 1-0. I think it was 1-0. And for us to go and play the way we did after the season we had would suggest that we just went in and went, fuck it, pressure's off, let's just go and play and have some fun.
Aye.
Which is that it's a bit of a cliche, but it actually seemed to happen for Celtic. And everything I read about this, all the reports and all that, like really do suggest that this Celtic performance was just incredible. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to have seen it.
And it got played in front of the smallest attendance of our run in the Coronation Cup.
Almost 60,000.
60,000.
Yeah, 60,000, and that's half of what people were, and that's half of what the final was. The final was 117 and change.
Yeah.
So Arsenal were the champions of England, and Arsenal were complaining about missing 3 regulars, but Celtic were also missing quite a few players. We had Sean Fallon, who broke his arm. Mm-hmm. Fernie was missing this game, and Bowden was missing this game. Alec Bowden, I think his name was. But anyway, we went to Hampden, and Bobby Collins, who's from Govanhill, which is very, very close to where I'm from.
Aye?
He's
Govanhill Pool. We used to go by the Govanhill Pool on the way to the ground in the supporters bus, and there was always people demonstrating save our pool. It's
called a street swimming pass. It's essentially Victoria Road, Queen's Park.
Did it ever get saved, that swimming pool?
It did. It's now something else. But it's been like restored and stuff like that. So nice. Yeah, they have like gigs and that. Anyway, Bobby Collins scored the goal in 23 minutes. His nickname, the Wee Barra.
Nice.
That's a brilliant nickname. And when we were playing Arsenal, we had... I'm going to take you through the team first of all, at the starting 11. We had Bonner, Hockney, Rollo, Evans, Steen, McPhail, Collins, Walsh, Mochan, Peacock and Charlie Tully. Bertie Peacock, and Collins scored the goal. But apparently, in this game, Evans, Steen, and McPhail absolutely bossed the Arsenal front line to the point that Arsenal were not too happy about the kind of robust nature to the tackles that we were putting in. But what I was reading, it never actually spilled over into a bit of a riot. There was like one incident where the players squared up, but they quickly like shook hands in that old-fashioned style they were doing, tipping their hat and their walking stick and off they go.
Still at 1.5 speed.
Yeah. But Celtic roughed Arsenal up and we took the lead and we beat them, with no doubt at all. It should have been 5 or 6, and if it was 5 or 6, Arsenal couldn't have any complaints. As I say, Arsenal were complaining about missing players, but Celtic were missing 3 players as well, so it evened itself out.
So wait a minute, Arsenal get beat because we got it up them, and they complained about decisions and stuff like that, or missing players. Was Arsene Wenger the manager behind it?
He's old, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he was.
He still had that massive coat.
He was definitely born then, so it's possible. So yeah, and in this game, Mochan was introduced. He was quite integral in this Coronation Cup. He didn't score in this game, but he scored in the next game. As I say, he scored in his debut, which was the game 2 days prior to this. Not the quarter-final, as we mentioned earlier on. It's actually called the first round, but it's essentially the quarter-final. They called it the first round because there's only 8 teams. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the goal was scored by Bobby Collins. It was curled in from a corner. We had 13 corners in this match. Arsenal only had 5. And the ball came out, and it sort of, from what I'm reading, there was like a deflection or something. The ball swung out, and he curled it into the corner, but the wind sort of helped it. Mm-hmm. Into the net, and it came off the goalie, and sort of the goalie had no idea what was going on. It sort of bounced off the goalie. Seems like it was a bit of a fluke, but
you'll take it.
I know, but obviously the reviews, the write-ups, and the media's reaction suggest that Celtic absolutely destroyed Arsenal. So much so that there was a clamour for a cross-British league instead of having 2 separate leagues. Merged them.
Imagine.
I know. So that was how good Celtic were, and it was like a real surprise to many people that Celtic played as well as they did, as you suggested. As you said, rather, we tried 8 players in 8 different positions and we rotated, and it was just a case of, right, let's try this. It's a sign of desperation. It's like fucking, we spoke about Mowbray and Dial to an extent, like fucking, let's put him here, whatever.
The Dial in midfield where you just throw the players onto the pitch.
Just drop them on and hope for the best. But
wherever you land, you will play.
Yeah, and with Bonner in goals, the only save he really had to make was there was no save. Apparently, the only save he had to make was like collecting pass backs. That was it. And this was the champions of England against a team that finished 8th or 9th in their own league. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the reason Celtic were selected for this tournament was because of the following that we had. It wasn't because we were doing well at the time. It's because we are Celtic, and this is kind of why we're doing this podcast. But
and the respect we had for the crown, obviously.
Obviously we love the Queen and Michael Fagan and all that sort of stuff. But Bobby Evans and John McPhail both were wing halves now. You're going to have to enlighten me as to where the wing half played. Is that the middle of the pitch, or is that the far right of the striker that bombs up and down the pitch, but mainly plays up top?
My impression was a wing half. Was it almost like a wing back? But let me just.
I've got a thing here, and it suggests the half back would sit in the midfield. The full backs would just be 3 at the back. The inside forward would sit like behind the strikers. Like the formation I have here. This is ridiculous. There's like it's 3-2-2-3. Is that right? And so you would have a centre forward and 2 wingers. One on the other side. Behind that, you would have 2. It's a very attacking formation. But I think the wing half, like, it's double speak for people watching football these days with the positions we have now. But anyway, Bobby Evans.
Just to kind of talk about wing halves here, it looks like. So I've got a thing on Wikipedia where they've got a 2-3-5 formation. You know, the mental olden days. Where the wing halves were basically the midfielders who were kind of more towards the wing, but not actually wingers. So it was,
right.
And it says they've been kind of superseded by the introduction of fullbacks.
Yeah.
So I think it was like fullbacks that were just pushed further up the pitch.
Yeah, it's amazing. It does fascinate me the progression of like football styles and formations over the years. But anyway, Bobby Evans and John McPhail apparently were sensational. Like, I think Bobby Evans got man of the match in this game. I'm not sure if man of the matches were given, but according to the reviews and the media that I read, he was like amazing. And along with John McPhail, they had this sort of telepathic understanding. They always knew where each other were, and he just tore Arsenal apart. Arsenal could not handle them at all.
Aye. I mean, they had a similar impact in the semi-final as well, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, probably.
Yeah. So we beat Arsenal 1-0 at the beginning of this cup. We've just beat the number one team in England, and we're playing this tournament to celebrate the crowning of the Queen of England, and we've just sent them packing. So that's a big thing. I think that's probably why people were so surprised, and this and that and the next thing. So I just want to finish off the Arsenal game by going through a few quotes that I've managed to find from the newspaper clippings that I came across in my travels. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any names for these, because in a lot of these old clippings it just says our football correspondent. There's no like I can't credit anyone. So it says, right to the very end, Celtic attacked with refreshing zeal, and let it be recorded that the Hampden roar was turned on in a volume we have not experienced for many years. In comparison, the effort at the Scotland-Sweden game was not even a whisper. I'm going to continue now. On Bobby Evans, Arsenal must have thought a cyclone was at right half, whatever position right half is. Never was a match of this standard more needed. It was a game which lifted Scottish football from the doldrums. It was almost incredible. Celtic, who have had their supporters in a frenzy of anguish with a series of displays of unworthy of the club in the season just ended, not only just beat Arsenal but taught them how to play football. Had Arsenal lost by 5 or 6, they could have no valid complaint. So again, it just reiterates how Celtic went onto that pitch and just destroyed Arsenal with this amazing football, and they never even got a sniff. Last thing I want to say about this game is an actual clipping from the newspaper I've got here, and it says, there was not a failure in this Celtic team that had the crowd roaring as never an international crowd at Hampden have roared. Steen, as solid as a rock. Rollo, whose mastery over the Arsenal right wing was such that he had the temerity to leave them in their isolation and get so near to the visiting goal as to be balked only by a daring dive by Swindon. The elusive Speedy Walsh and vastly improved Tully gave outstanding performances. Now, I apologise for the intonation of some of those things. It's difficult to read when the newspaper clippings are genuine newspaper clippings, and they're very, very fuzzy, and obviously it's written in that old English style. But yeah, you have an idea of how good Celtic were, and I don't think we mentioned it, but Jock Stein was part of the squad. Jock Stein was the captain of this team. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know for certain. I assume that he was signed by McGrory, so I would say that he's probably the most important signing that McGrory made, just because of what happens next. You know,
potentially it's open for debate.
But what I love from your quotes there is how melodramatic olden days journalism was as well.
I know. It's that old English as well that it's really difficult to try and read it, especially when it's like really, really fuzzy shots, screenshots or whatever we're using from the websites and the archives that we've been using.
So you went to the Mitcham Library for the first time this week.
For the first time in my life, I went to the Mitchell Library yesterday.
How was that kind of experience?
Amazing. It's an amazing building. I've walked past it a million times. I've lived in Glasgow. I lived in Glasgow for a long, about 20 odd, almost 30 years. Obviously living abroad, but the first time I went was yesterday, just to try and pull up some bits and bobs, and I mainly focused on the Herald. I didn't have the heart to look at the Evening Times, and I definitely did not have the heart to look up the records. So there you go. But it was mainly just to give an idea of what was happening with these games and the feeling was. And it turns out I've used some of the information in this, but some of the things that I actually went to find were actually on the wonderful Celtic wiki as well. So like some of the newspaper clippings that I was like scrolling through, like fucking Robert Langdon for the Da Vinci Code, turns out they were actually on there the entire time. But the experience itself was great, and I will be going back for further pods.
Cool.
So that leads us on to the next game,
semi-final, where we play Matt Busby's Manchester United. Again, there's kind of blustery conditions for this one, which is Glasgow in May, obviously.
Yeah.
So there was apparently from the Herald article there was a kind of dust storm going about the pitch because of the conditions. Again, Evans and McPhail are playing at wing halves, and they have an extraordinary game. Celtic team is Bonner, Hockney. I was going to say Honey, but Hockney, Rollo, Evans, Steen, McPhail, Collins, Walsh, Mockin, Peacock, and Tully. Incidentally, my mum's maiden name is Peacock, so I wonder if I've got any relation. And the Man United team was Crompton, McNulty, Aston, Carey, Chilton, Gibson, Violet, Downey, Raleigh, Pearson, and Bryn. I wonder if that's a typo.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
he's a fuck. It's only man.
Yeah. I don't know any of those Man United players at all, but I mean that doesn't say much.
Yeah, and just to reiterate again, the manager.
The manager was Matt Busby. And I was reading. I think this could actually be a podcast in itself as well. Matt Busby was a kind of diehard Celtic fan, and the only reason he never played for Celtic was because apparently during the war, we were the only club not allowing outside players to come into our team. So they were called guest players, and we were the only ones not doing it. And apparently that had quite a disadvantage for Celtic during the Second World War. So I don't know. I take it there were reasons behind not allowing them. Maybe it was a kind of patriotic thing in the war or something. But apparently we weren't doing that. So that that could be a good strand to go down.
Quite interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So the referee was a guy called C.E. Faultless.
Now I found out his real name.
Is it not C.E. Faultless?
It's C.E. Faultless, but it's Catholic Eamon Faultless.
Catholic.
Eamon. No, I'm only joking. I found out that name as well. I couldn't believe it. Apparently, I think they were denied a penalty. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, and that's a faultless performance. Then.
Like that Man United were denied a definite penalty, and Mr. C.E. Faultless from Giffnock said no. It's fucking brilliant.
I'll be the judge of whether you're faultless, Mr. Faultless.
Aye. Charlie Tully. 2 assists. 2 assists in that game. And then?
Yeah, apparently he ran rampant. Peacock in one wing, Tully in the other. It was just unplayable. He said that he was basically able to dribble wherever he wanted. Yeah. And then he pulled a muscle on his, I think it was on his thigh. He kicked the ball away. And this is a great quote. So it's he pulled the muscle and then, in quotations, indiscriminately kicked the ball towards the corner flag. And then this is a quote from the Herald. Quote, "The throng are so used to his peculiarities that when he's hurt, no one pays a great deal of attention." So he has antics, basically. Yeah.
So Charlie Tully got 2 assists before pulling a muscle.
Aye.
Yeah.
And
I think every...
scored.
Yeah, Peacock and Mockin. Again, Mockin being quite an integral part of Celtic at this point, and he's only in the door like a week.
Aye.
He's already scored 3 goals or something like that. So exactly. It's huge impact on Celtic. But
Man United scored in the 77th minute, and even though we'd controlled the game, and again similar to the Arsenal one, dominated them, apparently the fullbacks were getting run ragged, and Mockin was taking on Chilton at centre defence and basically dominating them. But when they scored the 77th minute, apparently we held on quite a bit towards the end and were just kicking the ball anywhere. But we got the victory, so that was
that's kind of what you want to do when you're playing against the bigger and better teams. You should really play to your strengths. It's something Celtic could be doing in these games, especially the games under Dyler where we weren't playing to our strengths. But we spoke about in the first game that we spoke about Celtic just destroyed Arsenal. It seems like they continued on to an extent that kind of form.
Exactly.
That we were playing pretty good stuff, and as you say, the last 13 minutes of the game, it was kind of a siege on the Celtic goal, but we managed to last, and we were 2-0 up before they managed to score a goal. So it sounds like Celtic deserved that. And I read a couple of things with Evans and McPhail were again just absolutely instrumental in Celtic, and I read that Evans, quote, "consistency should be his middle name."
That's right. Yeah.
And so we had Evans and McPhail, and McPhail was supposed to be an amazing passer of the ball, and the two of them together were just an amazing duo. And as I say, we went on and we beat Man United, and Man United probably should have scored more goals than they had that penalty, but good Mr. Catholic Eamon Faultless managed to see that Celtic won the game.
And 73,000 turned up for that one. So
73,000. So we're
on the rise.
We've jumped 13,000. It's not bad.
Aye. But one thing I just wanted, so obviously Charlie Tully got injured. That was him out the final. The one replacement was Fernie coming in. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
So I've got a few things on each of the players that played in the final, just to give you a kind of little background if you hadn't heard of some of the players. So I think you've got some things to say about John Bonner. Apparently he was the best since John Thompson. He played 180 games for Celtic, and to me he sounded a bit like, what was the name of that goalkeeper from Mexico that used to wear the really brightly coloured goalkeeper tops?
Campos?
Aye, he sounded a bit like him in that he was quite small, but really kind of cat-like.
And this is Bonner?
This is John Bonner, aye.
Well, I read that, as were the ways of certain Celtic boards back in the day, and some would argue even to this day, 2 weeks before this game kicked off, Celtic were trying to get rid of Bonner and try to bring in a guy from Green Morton, and it fell through, and then Celtic went, fuck it, we'll stick with Bonner.
Aye.
And apparently, from my reading, in this final, Johnny Bonner was the reason that we won this final, because he was so good in goal. And
it reminded me of the kind of Fraser Foster against Barcelona, like that kind of
the wall, the Great Wall.
Yeah.
He was just they couldn't get past him. But my research found that he wasn't that good in the build up to that, and he chose it just happened to be on that day in that final of quite a big cup, which turned out to be quite a big cup, that he had his best game for Celtic, and so much so that fans were congregating outside the stadium chanting his name. When the game finished, the team ran and lifted him up and all that, and he was absolutely imperious for Celtic in that game.
Nice. And so we also had Mike Hockney, who actually fought in the Second World War, which is kind of bizarre to think. He was capped for Scotland. He was a right back from Paisley, and he played 233 games for Celtic and got 44 goals, so that's pretty good for a fullback.
Yeah.
Alex Rollo was at left back. He only got one cap for Scotland, and he only played 37 games. And then obviously you've got the legend as Bobby Evans, 384 games for Celtic, 48 caps. He then went on to Chelsea afterwards, and he was the first Celtic captain to ever win the League Cup.
What a player, what a barnet.
Aye, exactly. Obviously Jock Stein, 106 games as a player. John McPhail, 87 goals in 204 games, so almost a goal every 2 games for John McPhail. And interesting about him was that when he finished, he wrote for the Celtic View and the Daily Record.
Wow.
Yeah. Bobby Collins next with 81 goals in 220 games. He had 31 caps. One thing that's kind of bizarre about Bobby Collins is that he had a 9-year Celtic career. And you'd think, okay, that's 9 years, maybe play a few more years for somebody else. But afterwards, he played for Everton, Leeds, Bury, Morton, Ringwood City, Melbourne, Hakoah, Oldham Athletic, and Shamrock Rovers, spanning a 25-year playing career.
Woofed.
For an outfield player, that's fucking mental.
Yes.
Jimmy Walsh was next with 59 goals in 144 games, and he actually went on to Leicester City next, where he scored 79 goals for them, and he's still in the top 10 goal scorers for Leicester City.
That's amazing. We're playing them on Saturday, of course.
Yep. Neil Mockin, as we've already spoken about, went on to score 82 goals in 191 games for Celtic. He got 3 caps, and then, I didn't actually know this either, he came back to Celtic and was a first team coach.
He was a kitman, I'm sure. He was a kitman in the early 90s.
Kitman, and he was a coach under Stein, McNeil and Davy Hay.
Yeah, that's good. That's as we spoke about previously, before we recorded, I would like to do Neil Mockin further down the line at a podcast on him, because he scored. I actually found out that he scored over 100 goals for Celtic.
Oh, did you? Okay.
There is a discrepancy, but we know he scored at least 80 goals, and he made an instant impact.
Yep.
And he scored in this final that we were about to talk about. But yes, Bertie Peacock. What have you got on Bertie Peacock?
318 games, 32 caps for the North. He got to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in 1958 with the North, and he, for some reason, I don't know, I couldn't find anything else about this, but in 1955 he got 1 cap for the United Kingdom.
The Olympics, maybe?
But 55 surely wouldn't have been an Olympic year, unless it was the kind of beginnings when it was not properly sorted out yet.
Probably.
Maybe when we do Bertie Peacock we can look into that more.
I have to say that's a fucking amazing name, Bertie Peacock.
I know.
Sounds like a wrestler or something like that.
And we finished off with Willie Fernie. He had 2 spells at Celtic, getting 219 appearances. Apparently he was a dribbler that could play anywhere across the front, which is something that I've noticed with quite a few of these players. They seem to be just categorised as forwards that could play either in the wing, central, doing different tasks. He went on to partner Brian Clough in the strike force at Middlesbrough, and he played in Scotland's 7-0 defeat by Uruguay at the '54 World Cup. Imagine getting pumped 7-0 at the World Cup.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So that was the team, and obviously McGrory was the manager. He, in 25 years, he got 1 league title and 4 cups, which is obviously not the best of records.
No, there was a discussion on the huddle board about the worst managers ever, and McGrory was mentioned regularly.
Imagine going 25 years with like 1 league nowadays. It's almost Arsene Wenger in its proportions.
It just would never happen.
No.
It would never happen in our lifetimes. So the man of the match was Bonner.
Aye.
Man of the match was Bonner. Celtic in the first half. Just to point out, the game was played at Hampden, 20th of May, 1953. Celtic played Hibs. And if you think about this, the whole tournament was to celebrate the crowning of a lizard from England.
And Germany.
And Canada as well, I think. And other countries. Anyway, 2 teams in the final. 2 Irishy teams in the final. 2 teams that were probably anti-monarchy in the final. Just make this feel... This is kind of why it's kind of a special cup to win. With Celtic and Hibs being kind of not anti-British, but we're not the most British of teams.
Yeah.
Actually winning the tournament that saw the coronation of this woman who's still the head of the monarchy right now, and it was 2 teams that were never really thought of.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone would have thought that Celtic Hibs would have been the final before the tournament started. They were probably hoping for like a Rangers-Arsenal final or something like that.
Yeah, totally. So in the first half, apparently Celtic ran ragged. They dominated the first half. And again, we were playing against a Hibs side that had won quite a lot of trophies in previous seasons. Mm-hmm. Celtic in the first half apparently ran ragged. And we scored on the 28th minute with a goal from who else but Neely Mochan.
Brilliant.
Neely Mochan scored the goal.
Our very own Neely Mochan getting pulled out of the tournament here.
Yep. Apparently Celtic deserved the lead in the first half, and it was not until the second half that Hibs woke up and then destroyed Celtic in the sense that they bombarded the goal and Johnny Bonner stood his ground and, as we spoke about, put in the performance of his life in a Celtic shirt. As I say, what I read was that he wasn't as good as some goalkeepers we've had, and he certainly wasn't in the form of his life, but he chose the right day to have like the best game that he'd ever have in a Celtic jersey. So without him, we probably would not have had this trophy. And then in the second, we spoke about the second half, against the run of play, Celtic scored the goal back. It was a goal from Walsh to make it 2-0. In the last couple of, it was James Walsh. With 2 minutes to go, Celtic sealed the win to win the Coronation Cup and get it up everyone else.
Get it up the Queen.
Get it up the Queen.
That's the interesting thing about goalkeepers, though. They could be like shocking for most of their career, and then you can have like one performance that's just going to put them on like another level in memories.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. As I say, that guy Laurie Riley, who scored hundreds of goals for Hibs, he was playing in this game and he was struggling against Bonner.
Aye.
And as I say, for us to win this tournament when we finished 8th in the league, we were up against teams that done much. We were one of the biggest teams in it, but we would have been probably the team with the least chance, the worst chance of winning the tournament, because we were so far down in our league, and everyone else finished higher in our league and in the other league, which was stronger.
Yeah. But what was the impact of this in the next season?
We won the league.
Yeah. So we won the league for the first time in 16 years.
I guess you could see that the Queen was the catalyst for Celtic winning their first trophy in 16 years.
Aye, exactly. And the Scottish Cup as well.
Yeah.
League and Cup double. So thank you, Your Majesty. Is it Your Majesty or Majesty?
Oh, who cares, man? She's a fucking bint. She's a bint. So yeah, Mochan scored a goal, 35-yard goal, which was apparently a screamer, and then we finished with Walsh in 2-0. Celtic won the Coronation Cup, and there's not been any other cups like this. There's obviously the Queen is still fucking alive. Well, as far as we know, could be a fucking weekend at Bernie's scenario there, but it's the one and only cup that we have that anyone's won like that. So,
did you see that TV clip with David Jason talking about the Queen talking about black people or something like that. Did you see this?
No.
He was on like a recent TV show in Britain, like a morning show, and he tells this little anecdote about the Queen. And the anecdote about the Queen is essentially the Queen comparing black people to animals. And this is like the humorous anecdote that David Jason is like telling on this. Fucking bizarre, man.
He's getting on a bit as well. He must be about 85.
Aye, they're old people. They're all racist.
Aye, I know they're all old racists, all lizards. But so yeah, that's the Coronation Cup, and I just the sweet irony is, as I just want to reiterate, is two traditionally Scottish and Irish teams going to the final, anti-establishment Republican-y type teams. One
eats more soup than others, you could say.
Aye, one is partial to a bowl of soup, the other one's partial to a few rebels and other things. But we not only won this tournament, we actually went in and destroyed the champions of England.
Yeah.
And we papped them, it was Gallus, and we actually took the trophy off these teams and just ran away with it. And these are the wee stories that made us do this podcast for me.
Exactly.
These wee niche anecdotes that many people may not remember or even know is for me the sole reason that we want to do this podcast. I tweeted earlier on about the Celtic history podcast, and if anyone hasn't listened to them, make sure you listen to them. They're amazing. I listened to the one from the decade of 1950 to 1960, and it mentions the Coronation Cup. So it's good for us to go into these with more information and to give people an idea of what happened and what it meant for Celtic. Because as you say, 16 years without a trophy, and then 16 years without a league, and then after blowing teams away that were better than us, we go on and we win a league in the next season.
Yeah, it's definitely good. I'm glad we did this Coronation Cup because it just brought things to mind that I'd never really thought about, and players that I maybe want to talk about later. Definitely want to do something Charlie Tilley. He seems like a kind of interesting guy. So
yeah, totally, and also Mockin as well. I think, and even all of them.
Every time you say Mockin, I just keep thinking of the word mock it.
Mock it? Nah. I want to do podcasts and all that, but obviously that's not possible. But yeah, so that was the Coronation Cup. And now let's move on to what you think we are going to be doing for tonight's game.
Let's bring it forward, I guess. I don't know, it's getting me worried looking in the huddle board. There's threads up about winning 7, 8, 9-0.
They were there last week.
Well, fucking brilliant.
My point is that we got ahead of ourselves last week, and then obviously we lost.
I got a bit more confidence after the Wolfsburg game because not only did we obviously win the game, but we played well, and we played well in different formations as well, which was good.
Yeah. And
we also got good performances from players that are maybe looking to be replacing ones that are not so good, like Brown and Beaton. If we can, I thought Scott Allen's second half was great. I thought McGregor was great as always. I thought Armstrong, again, he's going from strength to strength under Brendan Rodgers, obviously, apart from. I am worried because I'm hearing kind of rumours that James Forrest is going to play tonight, and I'd rather he just wasn't anywhere near the club anymore, to be honest. I just feel. There's sometimes you get with a player that it just feels as if the time's up. And for me, it just feels as if the time's up with James Forrest.
He just doesn't offer anything apart from that run that he does once in about 60, and that flick of the hair. He looks devastated.
Aye.
It's something bad has really happened to him. So I agree. I don't think Forrest should be near the squad. And I saw what you're talking about. Someone's leaked the squad apparently. But for me, first of all, was there any press about Celtic after the Wolfsburg match in Germany?
Not really.
Right.
Everyone's just been. It's been fucking murder over here, man. Anyone who knows that I'm a Celtic fan or away my top, they just want to laugh about the Gibraltar score. I've not had this since we put Legia Warsaw out using admin. I've not had this level of scrutiny. So
no, see this result last week was a fucking brass neck. It was terrible. In fact, probably years and years down the line, someone else might do a podcast about that fucking episode, that fucking game because it was embarrassing. But for me tonight, I think Celtic will win 3-0. I think the big pitch will be quite important for us. That's why I would play Roberts, and I would also play Rogic, and I would play McGregor and Armstrong in midfield.
So that's a four-man midfield. So who's wide, or are you playing it kind of central?
Roberts has to be wide because I don't think he can offer anything else as far as I know. McGregor, Rogic, central, and Armstrong will be in the left and coming in. I know I'm not going to get technical because I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just an idiot that plays Champman and watches football. Gordon in goals, Lustig right back, Aja, who was good at the weekend, who actually got man of the match, and it was the strange one because he got subbed on and then got subbed off and then still managed to be man of the match because Sviatchenko.
He gets subbed off for McCarthy.
And then we made those wholesale changes, and then he came off. I think he got about 60 minutes, but still was man of the match. And I thought he was good, so I'd play him with Sviatchenko, who's back and only has a black eye, and then obviously Tierney up front. I'll go with 2 up front, which is Dembele and Griffiths, and as I say, 3-0 to the Celts.
I do quite like the sound of that team with like the kind of idea of like a 4-4-2 that maybe moves into a 4-3-3 if you pull Armstrong in and put Roberts up to the wing.
Yeah.
It just depends. Like, do you think we should be going that attacking in the centre, or do you think we should have someone at least sitting?
It's a good point. Beaton's injured, Johansson's injured, Brown will play, but Brown is a fucking dud. Like, he doesn't do it. I wouldn't class him as a defensive midfielder. He's just a fucking dough ball. There's really an actual dough ball in the middle of the pitch sometimes.
The Pillsbury man.
It's the Pillsbury man. It's the most important thing for me tonight is to play Griffiths where Griffiths is best, and that's up front. And just as I said before, pander to Griffiths and let him loose on these bakers and candlestick makers, and these guys who are they're essentially part timers, So I think Celtic will win. I just hope that we. And Rodgers made a point in his post match press conference yesterday. He's like, if it's 20 minutes in, the fans have to be patient. If Celtic haven't scored, have to be patient, and I completely echo that. And he also went on to say, and the fans will know that they have to be patient. I was like, no, they don't. People will start going after nut if there's no a goal scored within the first 20 minutes. But I think Celtic are a good bet to score within the first 10 minutes tonight. So I'll be going to the game shortly. I'll need to leave soon, and I'm going to be putting some bets on. A bet would be for Celtic to win 3-0.
I've put on us to be -3, so I'm hoping for at least 4. So, but I've got a feeling that, see, if we do, like, this stadium is going to have more people in it than Gibraltar has, I think. And if
the pitch is completely different, the pitch is also bigger, and the pitch is everything should be different tonight, as far as I'm concerned.
There'll be like can you imagine what the Gibraltar players are going to be thinking when Celtic go into the huddle and the crowd are going fucking mental?
It should be a good crowd.
Yeah, I think it's going to be almost sellout. And if Celtic score at that point, but if Celtic score the first 5 minutes, then I think it'll be floodgates.
Well, let's hope so. So your prediction for the night? Score?
I would like to think that if Celtic score and start scoring, I would like to think that they actually dish out a kind of a hammering just to get me some fucking face back with my German fucking people over here, so I don't get mocked. I would like to think we'll win by maybe 5-0, something like that.
Let's not pretend that last week is gone and is not ready for fucking years and years and years, because it's not. We could win 20 another night and it doesn't make a difference. The damage is done.
Aye.
But for me, as I said, 3-0, Celtic to win by at least 3 goals, and I think these guys will be sent packing. But the fact that we're talking about it with such importance says a lot about the result last week, and Rodgers has to get his fingers out.
I just hope that we don't do one of these things where we go 2-0 up and then just start fucking passing the ball about, man. If they then get a corner in the last minutes of the match, man, we could be fucking it. So I just want us to batter them, man. We need to be getting a momentum going as well. We need our forwards to be scoring and get into the habit of scoring. Yeah. So I want us to go full throttle for the fucking 90 minutes.
Yeah, and these guys are part time, and we should really be fitter than them. So
yeah,
here's home.
So we're going to obviously have a little interlude now, and we'll be coming back with the second half, the aftermath. Hopefully it's not as dramatic sounding as the aftermath. Hopefully it's like the road to Astana or somewhere like that. That game's actually on just now. I'm just going to have a quick look at see what the score is. Astana versus Zalgiris, and Astana are 1-0 up at home. So they're going through at the moment. So it looks as if Kazakhstan for the next game. So
it's not ideal for the travelling support, and I think that Vilnius would have been a much easier and better place for the support to go to, but the fans will go anyway. They'll go everywhere, and that's good. That
team are 10 points clear in the league as well. A league that obviously has got Karaganda in it, so they've obviously
I think Kazakhstan football is actually getting better and better. I follow it on social media, and like they do seem to be doing, like they seem to attract a lot of foreign players, which I don't really know if that's an indication of the quality, but they seem to be having, like, what's his face plays for them, the Timoshuk.
Timoshuk plays for Astana?
Either plays for Astana or he plays for some other team. He plays in Kazakhstan.
I think he plays in Kazakhstan.
Timoshuk.
I think it's Kairat he plays for.
It's FC Kairat he plays for.
Is it?
So
he's 37 years old, still going on.
Yeah, I always wanted him for Celtic. But anyway, here's hoping the next time we talk, Celtic have won, and yeah.
Girl, tonight we're gonna make love. You know how I know? Because it's Wednesday. And Wednesday night is the night that we usually make love. Monday night is my night to cook. Tuesday night we go and visit your mother. But Wednesday we make sweet weekly love. It's when everything is just right. There's nothing good on TV. You haven't had your after-work social sports team practice, so you're not too tired. Oh, it's all on. You lean in and whisper something sexy in my ear like, I might go to bed now, I've got work in the morning. I know what you're trying to say, girl. You're trying to say, oh yeah, it's business time. It's business time. It's business. It's business time. I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say it's time for business. It's business time. Ooh, it's business. It's business time.
So, did you enjoy that?
The game, I enjoyed the atmosphere more than I enjoyed the game. Mm-hmm. The atmosphere was excellent. It was a highlight. The highlight of the night was definitely the fans. I think there was, I don't know the official attendance, because where I was sitting you couldn't hear anything over the speakers up in 444. But the fans were amazing. There must have been about between 50 and 55,000.
I would say so. There weren't many gaps at all, man.
Considering the opposition is pretty impressive, and considering it's a midweek game and we have a lot of fans coming from Ireland and that, it's quite a good number.
And kids are still on holiday as well, man.
Yeah, it's the Glasgow Fair, isn't it?
It's
the Glasgow Fair. Traditionally, people are on holiday at this time. So I thought the game was, I thought it was okay. It was what I expected. I did predict 3-0, so I never actually put it on. I did manage to put on Lustig, first goal scorer though, so I was quite pleased with that.
That was a great bet, but I can't believe you just put £1 on it, man. Fuck's sake.
You know,
I went in, spot on that.
Nah. I went into Paddy Power and they didn't even have odds. They never had odds for Tierney. Azure was 92. I was like, how the fuck do you get the figure 92 for Azure? Didn't even start. He's only new. And I always go for a defender, and I could not be asked pissing around trying to find bets because the odds were so fucking shite. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to put this. I was in a bit of a rush. I was like, this. £1, one name, piece of paper, out the door. Sure enough, and I'll be honest with you, normally I put a £4 or £5 on a defender. Lustig's come up a few times, Mulgrew is another, so it's normally quite a good one to do. But yeah, I was at the opposite end of the pitch of the 3 goals, so I was at the far end of the pitch, so I need to watch them again. But the goal, it was a bit of the Lustig goal was a bit of a swivel and a hit in the box after a bit of a stramash.
Aye, decent finish as well. Curled it just out the reach of the goalkeeper. So good. What did you think of the formation? So we kind of speculated that it was going to 3-5-2. I didn't expect to see Tierney at the centre back right enough.
Yeah, I thought Tierney done very well. He wasn't on Saturday. He had this sort of free role to roam up and down the pitch. He was a little bit more conservative in the game tonight. But he's good. He's a centre half. Like he was putting in good tackles. He can distribute the ball. He was okay. You know.
See that one where he hit like a 50-yard shot over the bar with a tackle?
Yeah. The guy next to me was getting on and on and on about how like they don't make them with him anymore, and he reminds him of Danny McGrain. The guy next to me was a little bit older than me, quite a bit older than me, but he was going on and on about how Tierney is a proper defender. You know, it was like he gets his kit's dirty almost straight away. He wears regular boots. He tucks his jersey in and he wears short sleeves top, like an old school guy. But I thought 3-5-2 worked in the first half. That other team they were like 4. So like they were 5-4-1 at points.
5-4-1, aye.
And we spoke about how Celtic struggle to break down teams when they sit back like that, but we managed to cut them open quite a few times.
I think what I don't know if we spoke about this before, but the 3-5-2 seems to be a bit of a like 4-5-1 killer. Italy they used it to great success in the Euro Championships, and I would like to see the reintroduction of it because it can work, even up against teams with wingers, you know.
Yeah.
It's just as long as you're disciplined enough and you've got the right players in the right positions and stuff like that. So, but apparently, Tierney, the reason he came off after 60 minutes is because his tonsillitis and like he wasn't going to play, but like, but he wanted to play. So
that's what I heard. The rumour that he wasn't playing earlier on before the game, and maybe it was you spoke to and you said no, he's not injured. But we still got Suminovic and Boyati to come back, and I haven't written them off yet. So I know we still need to get another centre half in there. Probably to replace, if we're going to play 3-5-2, you need to accommodate Tierney and Sviatchenko. Lustig will probably need to go, but then you're thinking with Suminovic and Boyata to come back, and who do you drop? It probably has to be Lustig.
It's a weird situation in that we need a centre back, but we've got like 5 centre backs on the books. You know, it's a bizarre situation where we've got Efe Ambrose who just can't be trusted, and we've got 2 players that are kind of always injured. Yeah,
I did notice that, and Brown does this regularly, but he did when Tierney was pressing forward. Brown went to centre half. Brown just went straight into the centre of defence, and just sort of held the line while Tierney was up and down. But as I say, Tierney wasn't up and down as much. He had a real free roll on Saturday, and he was constantly up and down. One person tonight that really fucking pissed me off was Armstrong.
Why did you think that?
I thought he was just extremely frustrating. He'd so much of the ball, but his final pass was just crap, and his corners are terrible.
His decision making.
Oh my god! Like tonight, he was all over the pitch. Really, he had a lot of the ball. He had this. He was given the freedom to run about the central of the park, Central Park. Not Central Park, but the Central Park, the middle of the pitch. He was just given this free roll and he was cutting about. But in the end, he never really done anything with, and he was scared to hit shots, and his corners were crap to the point that I think McGregor came over and was like, "Nah, game's up."
We don't have corner taker. I think Henderson's the best, but he doesn't get a starting game. So.
Yeah, it's mad to think that we don't have anyone that can hit a corner. When McGregor took one or two, his were better. Roberts's weren't very good either. So, but Armstrong for me, he just didn't offer. I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, what are you supposed to offer? What are you supposed to offer?
I know it was only Lincoln we were playing, but at times tonight, Paddy Roberts was unplayable, man.
I mean, it's as I said before the game, on a bigger pitch, like he's going to have a good game. He's not going to have a good game, but he's likely to have a good game because he has the space to run into, and he's not scared. I liked one thing that he done tonight. He had like 2 men, and he behind him, and he ran up and collected the ball, and he headed back to them, and he just turned round and faced the 2 of them, and they were a couple of feet away from him.
Aye.
Other players will stand and sort of shimmy back and try to beat them by backing into them and running away. But he turned round and faced them, and wanted to take them on, which said a lot of his confidence. The sky high, his tail was up after his goal. I haven't seen any goals back yet because I'm not long in, but he had a rare game. But again, it's a pub team.
Aye, that goal, that was great from Callum McGregor as well. It was just the 1-2 into the box and that great finish. It was a lovely goal.
I must say, I'm really, really starting to like McGregor more and more. His movement's excellent. He's quite direct and he works hard. He doesn't very rarely let you down. I know he's not pure amazing, but he does pop up with goals. He can beat a man, and he's pretty mobile. Like, that's kind of what we're wanting. That's kind of what we're at just now. We're kind of needing someone to put that bit of dig in.
I think Scott Brown started very kind of slowly, and he had a couple of really wayward passes, but he grew into the game and actually had a good game. But I think he was getting so much space in the midfield that it was hard for him not to have a good game.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen Callum McGregor in that position because I think Callum McGregor would have used the ball better.
Yeah.
And would have maybe created a few more chances. I think McGregor's much more has the capability to be a quarterback much more than Scott Brown does, you know.
I just struggle to think what Scott Brown offers Celtic. I mean, even today he wasn't that great against a team who are full of part-timers. He doesn't score, he doesn't assist, he doesn't really shoot. He passes sideways, passes backwards, and he just seems to get in trouble a lot. Like, I just don't see his future. I don't see what he's bringing to Celtic anymore. And
we'll not be getting replaced by Joe Allen anyway, because he's just gone to Stoke for 13 million or something.
I know, but we have other players there that can maybe step into that position, like McGregor, Azure maybe, but who knows? Like, I don't know. We'll need to wait and see at the end of this transfer window. He's not going to be going anywhere this year. I mean, it would be. I think Rodgers would be pretty stupid to try and get rid of his captain as soon as he's in the door. It's not going to happen. But I'd like to think that he's going to get limited game time as the season goes on, because he just doesn't really do enough to merit his position in the team. I mean, another person who was really doing minute on the night. Not this is me being a bit of a wank here, but Chifty is just like fucking wearing clown shoes, man. Like, what does he do? I don't know what he does. I know he was only on for 15 minutes, but he got into a couple of positions and he's just busting the ball over the bar, like not even close.
He's had a good pre-season. I thought he was starting to look a bit brighter, but tonight when he came on, he was just like a fucking. He'd won a competition, you know.
You get the impression some of these guys, and Dembele was guilty of this, is like they're trying too hard.
Dembele's first touch was appalling at times, man. He's got good ability and he's got good things about him, but he's still very, very raw.
Yeah, he's only 19. Like, I'm happy. He should have maybe had one goal tonight at least, and he done a couple of turns which were quite nice, and he's a big, strong guy, and he sort of tried, and he was moving about, and he was tracking back between him and Griffiths, who were moving back, like picking up the ball deep and bringing it forward. But he was just. It's going to take. I really wanted him to get that goal tonight, because that could have set him up, and maybe have got the monkey off his back, and then he can start. But he just seemed to be trying too hard. Griffiths is also guilty of trying too hard sometimes, but tonight he was pretty decent. Griffiths,
I was raging at Griffiths just because I needed one more goal for my bet to come up.
Yeah, I mean that ball. Well, I just slated Scott Brown. I'm going to contradict myself here, but the ball, I'm pretty sure it was Scott Brown.
It was
over the top. I have to say that we need to give it some context here. It's a pub team from Gibraltar, but Scott Brown made about 3 forward passes, which must be a record for him.
Exactly.
Like, normally he's just a crab. He's just sideways. He's kind of reminds me of Barry Ferguson.
The one thing I would say about Griffiths, I would actually like to know, of his 40 goals last season, how many of them came in inside the box, because he's thought of at Celtic as this like penalty box striker, but I don't think he is. Like, I think he's much more of a kind of 18-yard line striker. The amount of times he scores from just outside the box is unbelievable, you know. And when he's in that kind of 1-on-1 situation, I wouldn't trust him as much as maybe like a Gary Hooper, for example.
Nah, you're right. He's not as clinical in front of goal as you probably think, but he does score a wide range of goals. Like, he had like maybe 4 or 5 chances tonight. One of them was a goal. Two of them probably should have been. Should definitely been a goal. He seems like one of these strikers that needs 5 chances, 6 chances to score one.
I can't remember
like Suarez. Like Suarez is like that. I think Suarez needs on a play multiple times, and then he starts pinging them in.
I can't remember the player we were talking about last week, but it was this idea that when you have too much time to think.
It was Ambrose.
Was it Ambrose? So Griffiths
instinctual.
So Griffiths for me is when he's got too much time to think, he just kind of gets inside his own head, you know. And
they panic. Like, it's better just to. Some of these black guys should just act in instinct, and then there's Chifty who does that and busts the ball into the north stand. What the fuck are you doing, man?
I thought we did play well tonight, considering we didn't have Ambrose in the team. So that was a big loss, but we got over it as a team. So that was quite good.
So there was no Ambrose on the bench. There was no Beaton on the bench. I'm sure he's injured. There was no Allen on the bench.
I don't see any way back for Beaton and Johansson. I just don't know how they would get in that midfield. When you consider that we still have players like Allen on the bench, you know, and that was
Allen wasn't even on the bench. It was good to get Izagiri on.
It's such a ready for him, man. After his like emotional goodbye last season, now he's just pretending nothing happened.
Yeah, and it was good that he went on and he went straight. He went left wing pretty much, wide lefts, and he just stayed there, and it was okay. It's funny. I was thinking before the game where he went to. I was curious about, because he just disappeared. I don't remember him playing in any of the pre-season friendlies. He didn't play on Saturday, I don't think. I mean, I was at the game Saturday, but we made 11 changes.
I think he's had one, maybe half in one of the pre-seasons in Slovenia or something like that. I think he had one half or something.
So I thought as he was good. Forrest was okay. Like
Forrest, I must have
done what was expected. He done what was expected of him, but again, we were playing against a part-time side. He had a lot of success in the first half down that left wing, and his movement was good. He was quite fast, but I just feel like I'm not going to be negative here because we won and it was 3-0 in Europe, and any game is a good result. But I just feel like Celtic are very brittle at times. Like the recent Celtic performances in Europe have scarred me. And I feel like we're always close to conceding. Anytime a team gets near a goal, I shit my pants basically anytime we go forward. I think it's off the back of the Malmo and the Molde things. Every time they were going forward, they're just like, fuck, we're going to concede. And I just feel like even today, like they had a chance, like they almost scored and Sviatchenko sort of switched off.
Sviatchenko and Gordon had a kind of misunderstanding, and they were through. It was only about a foot or two by the post.
Exactly. So I just feel like we have a long way to go.
Even the games that we'd played okay in last year in Europe, you even like Fenerbahce, we were beating them 2-0 at home, and then we just throw away 2 goals.
I know. We had a real issue with holding a lead, and that's to do with the last manager not playing, not like doing the right things, not organising his team, and not like changing his style of football. When you're 2 goals up against a big side, you should really sit back and defend. Like if it was me, I'd be like 4-5-1, just like everyone banks a 4. 1-4-4-1 or something like that. But I just feel like Celtic are still brittle, and a better team will give us a game. And that brings us on to Astana.
A 91 minute winner from them. What I did notice was the guy that scored both their goals tonight was actually a defender, so I'm taking it must have been from set pieces or something, so that may be something for Celtic to watch out. Maybe.
I just want to point out, like Astana, I mean, it's when you hear these mad far-flung Eastern European, if they're even European, Eurasian, like names pop up, you're just like sigh, like, oh fuck, here we go. Our record against the Eurasian teams isn't bad, like Karagandhi and Karabag is not that bad, but I just feel like after like being emotionally scarred from the previous 2-3 years in Europe, I just feel like this is going to put the potential to be extremely difficult. We play out next Wednesday.
Yeah, you can almost see that. You can almost see what the game's going to be like, can't you? You know, it's going to be in a plastic pitch. It's going to be 35 degrees or something like that. You know, and it's you can
time
just see what it's
difference.
going to be like.
Everything is going to be so bizarre. Like I want to talk you through very quickly the last season. They actually beat Maribor. Over the 2 legs to get into they beat Maribor twice. They beat Maribor in the same stage just now. They're at just now where we're at just now. So it's like the second qualifying round of the Champions League. They beat Maribor over 2 legs. They beat HJK Helsinki over 2 legs, and they beat Apoel, who I'm pretty sure Cillian Sheridan plays for them, but they were in the Champions League the year before that. Then they had Benfica, Atletico Madrid, and Galatasaray in their team. In their group, they came last. They only lost 2 games. They never won any, but they drew 4 games, and they never lost a game at home.
That's a lot of people were kind of on Twitter saying, "Oh fuck, Astana! Like, why couldn't that other team have held on or something like that?" But the thing is, if that other team had basically taken them to the last second to go through, then they can't be that good. You know what I mean? Like, if they can't be that much better than Zalgiris or whatever, if Zalgiris held them for so long, you know.
They're 21 games into their season.
Aye, that's the big thing, and they're 10 points clear, so...
21 games into their season, 10 points clear. In the last... let me have a look here. The last 1, 2, 3, 4... Okay, so let's look at the last 5 league games.
Kairat beat them 1-0 in June, which...
Yeah.
That's the second place team, so...
And they've won every game since.
Aye, and obviously drew the qualifier
against Zalgiris of Lithuania. I just don't think it's going to be that easy, and it's going to be a real test. But I'm confident Celtic will sign a player. Are we allowed 1 player or 2 player before this round, or is
we can sign as many as you want as long as you get it done before the deadline.
Which is
I think it's tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I think it's the next day because the Herald's
Friday
got an article. I think it's Friday because the Herald's got an article up which is referring to the games last night. So it must be tomorrow, Friday. And Rogers in that interview says he hopes to have one or two in. So
yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll bring someone in. I just don't really know who they're going to bring in, obviously, but who's going to be replaced because we just have so many players, man. And we really need to start getting rid of some of these players, some of the midfielders, some of the defenders. Get rid of Ambrose has to go, sell him to China.
See if the option was though, like signing a centre back or signing a really good solid defensive midfielder. I would go for the defensive midfielder.
I would too. I still have faith that Boyata and Simunovic will do something.
Exactly, yeah. And we've got them coming back, but we don't have any defensive midfielders coming back. You know, it's not as if we've got somebody in the wings. It's just looking at that team though, that Astana. They've got their attackers. They've got a guy called Despotovic who scored 5 goals in 21 games. A guy called Nuzabayev who scored 6 goals in 18 games, and the other 2 strikers have only got 2 goals each. So they seem to have quite a bit of a problem scoring goals.
Yeah, I'm trying to find their league, but yeah, I mean, regardless of like who they are, we just need to worry about ourselves because we have a lot of frailties that can be exposed by organised teams that know how to exploit what we're shite at. Will take us apart, like the Malmos and the Molds and teams like that. Still have fucking nightmares about these teams. But I mean, for me to be positive and finish in a positive, the highlight was definitely the fans. The amount of fans that were there tonight was amazing.
That standing section, that was a joy to behold, man. That bouncing the whole match practically, it was great.
I know they were talking about that on Radio Scotland in the way back in the car, and they were saying that the guy that does it, Richard, whatever his face, he was like, he's like, it didn't even feel like Celtic Park tonight. It felt like something completely different. It's amazing. But I thought that the standing section wasn't going to be open in Champions League nights. I thought it was going to be sitting down.
I think they have to secure the seats down, but then I guess the people were standing when there was seats.
They're relying on the Green Brigade being responsible.
I think the point is that if they put the seats down, then it's like Celtic say, well, we put the seats down, and it's going to wash their hands of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then they just stand anyway.
It
was some racket. I was up near the Style Mile. Is that what they're called? The Style Mile Vandals. Whatever they're called. They create a fair bit of racket as well, so that was good. I was really, really close to them, and they really tried to get that section involved. Nice. So overall, like 3-0 in Europe, good atmosphere. It did feel like a big game, which probably says a lot about the start that we've made under Rodgers, which shouldn't have felt like such an important game, but that's what it was. But we go on to the next game next week, away to Astana in Kazakhstan, and I'll take us 0-0 right now.
There was a lot of positives tonight as well. I thought, in the first half, just seeing that, we've been practicing this thing in training where you need to get the ball back within a certain few seconds.
Yeah.
And that we were doing that brilliantly in that first half. As soon as we lost the ball, we were getting it back really, really quickly. And then just what I liked about, I was a big kind of defender of Ronnie Dyler, but when you come in, when you've seen Brendan Rodgers come in, he's instilled a philosophy that doesn't have a set tactic with it. So he switches his tactics up, and that philosophy just moves about with the tactics. And just seeing that kind of difference makes it so much more flexible and so much more kind of, I don't know, it just feels as if that's the way we should be playing. We shouldn't be predictable. The other team shouldn't know exactly how we're going to line up,
Yeah. Let's hope next week, as I say, I'll take a draw right now. Let's go for a score draw, 1-1. 1-1 would be amazing. That gives the away fans something to cheer. It gives us an away goal, and then we can bring it back to Celtic Park and finish it off. But yeah, the game tonight was good, 3-0, and the fans were amazing. So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, me too. So I've just got, I think, one tweet to mention from Twitter, obviously. And I'd asked about the Coronation Cup. Hadn't held out much hope about any replies, but we got a reply from a guy called Celtic FM, who's at FM Celtic, and he said, Coronation Cup, much like the 51 Cup win in Hampden in the sun, are great individual feats in a decade of mediocrity. Lack of guidance from McGrory and ill-judged interventions of Bob Kelly destabilised it. Geetins and Patterson quit in protest. Bad team with some good individual players struggled against good teams. Sadly, Hearts Hibs, Aberdeen had great ones. So,
Good tweet. Very, very, that's quite a lot of information considering how niche the subject was.
Exactly, yeah. As I said, I didn't think we were going to get any for this. So.
Yeah.
But so that was the only tweet I was, as I said, probably more popular when it's going to be a bit of a current one or more modern one. But
yeah.
So, as always, you can follow us on Twitter. It's @BoysAbroad. You can email us, historyboys@gmail.com. If you have any Celtic fans that you know that like podcasts, then maybe give us a mention to them or give us a retweet when we put the episode up. That would be really cool. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think that's us done.